Welcome to the Jerry Pitre Show, your ultimate podcast destination for everything collectible cards and sports memorabilia. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just now ripping your first pack, this is the place to check in. We are diving deep into the stories, the history, and the trends that are shaping the market. And we have an absolute wonderful guest on today, Sam C. Evans, on Instagram, the Sports Card Collector.
I appreciate you, man.
I think he's doing great stuff for the hobby. This is really, truly how you 10X the hobby. Yeah. You're helping the kids. You're educating them. You're providing value. You're a great guest. I couldn't wait to have you on.
Well, Jerry, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for letting me share my story with you. I love the intro. The hobby is a community. And I truly believe in the idea of community. And the only way to showcase that is, one, for me to be my authentic self, and two, to just be a bridge and bring in that world of me as an educator. And that's what I do every day as an educator. So thank you, man. Listen,
I'm telling you, I think that's really my favorite part of being a creative in the hobby, is to educate the kids. There's a lot of shiesty folks out here, right?
Yeah.
So I love to be a source of information, resource, pricing, selling, any of that, because I was a little kid once. I got burned, How can we improve and educate? So let's start off with what got you in the hobby, and since you grew up in Philly, how did that shape you?
Growing up in Philly shaped me because, it's that saying, like, in New York, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. I think the same saying is true in Philadelphia. If you can make it in Philadelphia, especially, North Philly, where I grew up, you can make it anywhere. And I'm grateful for my upbringing, even though it wasn't the best. But we still had some high moments as well. I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up poor, but we lived below the poverty line. And, my mother, she made something out of nothing, you know what I mean? So I'm grateful for where I am at today. And, when it came to the hobby, I have a story just like everybody else, finding my brother's sports cars inside their sneaker box, and I fell in love with it. And, when I first brought my cars to Letlow Elementary School, I realized I was a part of this ecosystem. Now, I couldn't say that word when I was in elementary school.
100%.
Couldn't articulate it that way.
At that time, we just called them friends.
Yeah.
At that time, we just called them friends.
When we got bused to Penn Treaty Middle School, which was an all-white neighborhood, there was a lot of drama around that because they didn't want us there. And I had a middle school right around the corner from my house, but they sent us, 40 minutes away from home. We walked in the cafeteria and all the white kids were sitting at the table. We had our cards, they had their cards, and I fell in love with hockey cards.
Let's go.
And there was another ecosystem. So, walking away from the hobby as a 13-year-old, because life happens and things happen, I always told myself I was going to get back into it. And, we was faced with a global pandemic, and the rest is history. And 5 years later, I'm here. Just being able to cultivate stories, unpack stories, share my own story. And I created this notion called the hobby experience. And I always say the hobby experience is me, you, and us. The hobby is big enough for all of us. And whatever door I go through, I'm leaving it open for everyone else to come behind.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And to try to jump off what you're saying, one of the things I really love about the hobby, it's kind of the cultural salad.
Yes.
Everybody brings their own flavor. It's unique, but the more flavors you add, the better it is.
Yes.
And it just breaks cultural barriers, language barriers, religious barriers. I mean, I was speaking to some gentlemen that, English was a second language for sure. But you say LeBron James, you say Kobe Bryant, you say Michael Jordan, and they know what you're talking about, And that's one of my favorite parts of the hobby.
Yes.
And it doesn't really matter your age group either.
Nope.
There's guys that are super knowledgeable at 14 years old, and there's guys that, in their late 80s that are just a plethora of knowledge. So it's a really fun space to play.
I mean, it's a beautiful bridge to be a part of. And it's just this wide spectrum. And I always say, because of this wide spectrum that we are in the hobby, you know, it would be a travesty if you didn't take time, especially being at the grandest show called the 45th National, to take some time out to get to know the person next to you and to like truly engage in their cardboard story in an authentic way.
Well,
because you never know what you're gonna learn.
Exactly, and me personally, I feel like the most success I've had is from getting to know people. You know, it's not the cards in your case, it's not how much money's in your pocket or your bank account. It's, you know, me knowing, hey, you know, this is your PC, this is my PC, and you just grow those bonds and those connections. I mean, I can't tell you how many times you see somebody, like, we're from Alabama, so you see somebody with a Brave shirt, you yell chop on across the room, they come up and hug you, they don't know, and they're like, hey, we're family, we're in Chicago, so chop on, fam. But yeah, you know, it's a beautiful thing. It really is. So kind of jumping back into it, you said you got back in the hobby in 2020, right?
Yes.
What did you specifically come back into?
I came back into the hobby searching for the glory days, you know, sitting at home, dealing with all the polarizing events that was going on. You know, I needed an escape as a black man in America, because so much was happening around me that was connected to my identity and my lived experience. And I needed an escape. And the one thing that I thought about from my childhood that was pleasant and beautiful and authentic and real was cards. And I found my old 3-ring binder and some packs of cards that I found at a flea market.
Let's go.
And you know, I opened those packs up, went through the 3-ring binder, and the joy came back.
Smiled from ear to ear the whole time, right?
I said, you know, I need to get back into this. This is who I am, and the journey began. And, you know, just remembering all the stories, all the moments from this moment in time when I was a collector, from the first time I saw my first vintage card, you know, from the first time I got my first Jordan card, and just all the cards that I wanted to have that I didn't have. And then also from my, you know, what I call my cardboard exile years, when I wasn't a part of the hobby, and thinking about all the cards that I missed out on in the greatest decade.
All the greatest sets ever.
Yeah, the greatest decade of insert cards ever were the 90s, you know. So just reliving those moments and, you know, filling that void. And then also like doing it in a meaningful way to connect with everyone in this great space. It's just been awesome.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I can't tell you how many times a day I literally think, man, my 8-year-old self would be so proud at what I'm doing, honestly. So, okay, since you are in the teaching field, how do you think that specifically kind of, because first off, you're great with kids. I mean, born natural here, right?
I appreciate it.
Do you think, I feel like teachers would have an advantage, right? You guys are already great communicators. You're already great with numbers. We love our math teachers. We love our science teachers. Listen, STEM, keep it up. We need more people in STEM. So kind of jump off that. Like, you know, do you think you had any advantages with being a teacher?
Oh, I think I have an advantage. I mean, interpersonal skills goes a long way in a hobby, just like it goes a long way, you know, in the education industry. But also like this idea of just meeting people where they are. Whether your PC is in the top 1% of the hobby and whether it's in the bottom, it matters. It's important. You know, it's unique to you. And like, I need to know more. So
well, not only that, I'm sure you're seeing it as a teacher, literally in the classroom, like, hey, put the Pokemon cards up. We're working worksheets. I mean, come on.
Yeah, so just that idea of meeting people where they are, good interpersonal skills, critical thinking skills, is so transferable. And just, you know, authentically connecting with people in a meaningful way. And like, tell me your story as a student. Tell me your story as a collector.
Yeah, no, I totally love that. So kind of since 2020, do you think the modern hobby is like, is it dying? Is it evolving? Because we're kind of stepping away from people set building and people just chasing, you know, case hits, kabooms. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think it all boils down to what you consume. I think all those things are still present and thriving in the hobby. It's just a matter of like, what does your point of view look like, feel like, and sound like? Are you actually tapping in on social media to follow collectors who set build? In this national alone, the grandest stage of them all, I still see collectors walking around with their notepads, building their sets. I still see collectors sitting at tables finding their cards. So set collectors, those traditional practices are still alive and well in a hobby. The modern practices are still here, and it's just like finding those bridge collectors to bring both of those eras together and to see the value and meaning in that. And I'm excited and happy that I get to be a bridge in this space.
That's absolutely wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. So, since we are at the National, and some prices are kind of high, how do you keep yourself grounded? How do you feel, in a space like this, it's very easy to feel like a little fish in a big pond, right? And some people think, oh, if I don't have the $10,000 rookie RPA, my collection isn't. And I'm all about collect what you like,
Yeah. I mean, I would say just go back to that traditional way of collecting, right? There's something for everyone in a hobby. I think the hobby is a space and place of unlimited access and potential. There, you will find your version of that card that you want, whether it's an RPA, whether it's some vintage card that's out of your price range. You will find that card. And then also, we all get caught up with the underbelly of the hobby, but beyond that, the hobby is a given space and place. Again, it all boils down to what are you consuming?
Correct.
What is your consumption visually? What are you listening to? Who are you surrounding yourself with in the hobby? And that's just like society, how it is in society. So, I don't get too caught up on that. I always tell people there is something for everyone at the National. Whether you have $1 million in your bank account or whether you have $50 in your bank account.
1,000%.
Whether your budget is $1 million, whether your budget is $50. I went through this whole week finding cards, and I have a wide price range, but I know what's for me.
Correct.
And I know what I'm looking for. So I found cards that was expensive that I wanted, and I also found cards that wasn't as expensive that I wanted. So don't get overwhelmed by a price tag. Don't get overwhelmed by stuff that may seem out of your price range. I just always say, walk the room, take the time to enjoy the hobby.
I would completely agree with that. And jumping off what you said on price point, I mean, listen, there's cool stuff I'm finding at $5, and there's cool stuff at $500, and there's stuff at every price point. And whether you're into autographed cards, Pokemon, V-Friends, non-sport, there's something out there for everybody.
Yes, it is.
And one of the things I always like to advertise to parents, I feel like this is the best hobby for your children to grow up in. Mm-hmm. They learn communication skills, marketing, math. I mean, it's there are some, like I said, slick people in the hobby, right?
Yeah. I mean,
it teaches grit. It teaches, there's a lot of stuff you can't get from reading. You have to have experience.
You learn a lot of life skills. I would say reading is important. You're talking to an educator.
Yes, completely.
Because it allows you to think critically, really assess things, and then also how to apply the things that you are interpreting in a real situation. And in the hobby, being able to assess, the long-term value of a card, short and long-term value of a card, and having that thought with yourself, saying this is a card that may not have value in the long run, but it's a card that I want. So I'm willing to pay a couple of dollars more, or I'm willing to take the hit in a trade or in a cash exchange.
So is there anything in the hobby that you've learned that you've been able to apply to other facets of life?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the hobby and education is transferable. It's intertwined, and it gives you the opportunity to really work on the humanness. And we need that more in our society, especially during this time. And, like they said, if sports can bring us together, music can bring us together, then a hobby can bring us together. and allows us to have like some clarity and say like at the end of the day, we're still human beings.
100%.
And we may have some differences, but what are the things that brings us together? So we can see each other, we can acknowledge each other, we can humanize each other, and we can honor each other's dignity.
Okay. So I'm gonna hit you with a funny one. Do you have any icks in the hobby? Are you a guy who goes, oh, it has to be a PSA 10. Oh, it has to be perfect.
Well, I can give you 2 icks. My first ick is the personalities that we have in this space who attempt to fill the room and thinking it's all about them, and where the focus should be about community. And for me, it's not about the numerical grade on the card. It's about my personal connection to the card.
Yes.
Was it a moment I saw on TV? Was it a moment I had with this athlete in person? Was it, just this yearning to like have this card to complete a set? You know what I mean? So the grade doesn't mean much to me. It's aesthetics. Just adds to that aesthetic conversation.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that allure of some fun stuff from my traditional way of collecting. Some bragging rights.
Yeah.
I'm in the top percentile of this card because of my grade.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, your card still matters.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
So I know we're getting close to wrapping up, so I wanted to hit you with a good question. What kind of legacy do you want to leave in the hobby? Because this is something that I literally lay in bed and sleep at night and think about, because all these individuals that we interact with, Emma, she walked up to you and goes, oh, hey, I recognize you. Like, tell us about what you're thinking.
I just want my legacy to be that, when Samuel came through the hobby, the sports car collector came to the hobby, he was a good person. He was authentic. He cared about people. He made space for everybody. And he opened up doors and windows for people to belong, exist, and thrive.
I love that. And first off, you're killing it. You're doing such a great job, honestly. And man, I tell you, with the legacy thing with me, it is building that community.
Yes.
It is educating the masses.
Yep.
I always think of, I'm just trying to build the biggest building. In a world where people are just trying to tear other people down, tear other people's buildings down, I'm just trying to build the biggest building. You know what I mean? Brick by brick.
And within that building, you can be a part of it.
100%. Hey, listen, Sam, thank you so much for being on. Listen, shout out. Where do we find him?
Yeah.
Where do we find you?
Well, you can find me on IG. I do most of my work on IG, the Sports Car Collector. It's not spelled the conventional way, but if you type in my name, Samuel C. Evans, you'll see me on Instagram. And I want to learn your cardboard story.
Soon to be on YouTube. We're going to twist his arm. We're going to twist his arm and make it happen. But he's making great content. Seriously. Boys, girls, mom, dad, this is who you need to follow right here. Brother, thank you for coming on.
Jerry, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.